Hello everyone. In this video I'll show you how to create a request in Reonic. As you can see, we find ourselves again in the portal and we have already selected requests here on the left menu and also residential requests in this case. However, creating a request for a commercial project works the exact same way, so we'll show it with the example of a residential request. In one of the previous videos, we've already had a look at how these Kanban boards look like, and we'll just create one that we'll also then find here on the Kanban board. To create a request, there are several ways to do it. If we move our cursor to the top right, there we can create a new request and we can import a lead basically. Importing leads or importing requests will be covered in a separate video. We have several options here over the API, over Zapier, over direct API connections, so there's always an option to automate this. However, in our case, we'll create the request from scratch. So we'll click on new request and we are met with a few options. So we can either search for a contact here and create a request upon an existing contact, or we can import or create a contact from scratch. And in this case, we create the contact from scratch. And basically, there are a few fields here that are mandatory, which is first name, last name, email, and address. Why is address mandatory? It is just the base, I would say, for most of the simulation that we do later on. So imagine you are planning a PV system on a house, and obviously temperature, radiation, weather in general is a huge impact factor on the simulation. So this is why we need the address to create something in here. So let's type in first name, last name, and email. Phone we'll just skip for now. We can also add this later. And then for address, it is quite handy that we are met with a Google matchmaking here, and once we select the Google address, we'll also fill out all the additional data points here, including the coordinates. And this is something I usually also check. So if you click on select coordinates, you can check whether the house that Google was connecting with your address is exactly the right one. If not, you can move around the red cross here and select the correct house. In this case, we'll just leave it as is and hit save. Also, customers will not be notified if you create the request here from scratch. So no need to fear that someone will receive an email that was not intended. And I will just hit save now, and the request itself opens. We'll have a look at this in a moment, but if we go back to the Kanban board, we can also see that there's a new tile here for the request that we've just created, and it is currently without status. So I'll just move it out and put it here to call 1. Basically, if there's no request without status, this entire column just vanishes. If I hover here over the request, I'm also going to see a few information points that later on also fill up if we type in more information, obviously. And we can always either click on the name to open the request, or use the 3 dots here to edit, or to move, or to change the assignments. Fantastic. So as the request is open, it is very easily built up. So we have the general information, which is basically an extended version of what we've just typed in. So the contact details, a few things about telephone and mobile, some more detailed information about the meter number and some internal IDs. We can also define a lead source here. This can later on also be automated completely. And we can create tags, for example, for PV, for heat pump. I can show you this in a second. And yeah, we can also have a look at the address again. The cool thing is that we can also let us show the distance and how long it will take approximately to drive to the customer's house. Very fancy thing. And we have here on the right an overview of all the relevant information about this project. So status, assignment, deal value, what state it is currently in, if there are any events or images or mails, tasks, files or notes connected to this. And we also have an activity log up here, which is also showing us how and who and when created this request. The cool thing is that these are all automated, so it's basically a track record, a history of what has happened to this lead. You can, however, also create manual events as call or meetings, for example. Wonderful. If you don't want to have this here appear, you can also just unmove the pin and then it will vanish here and you can open it up if you want. This will then make space for everything else that happens up here. We'll have a look at this when we are looking at the offer itself later on. So we'll skip that and put it to the next video. And we will move on from general data and move ourselves all the way to lead information and pre-qualification. Lead information is something that is filled out customly if the lead was, for example, imported or created somewhere else. So this is not relevant for us right now. The pre-qualification, however, is. And this is super cool because you can customize this yourself. So there's going to be an entire video on how to configure this, but we can do a very quick one now, which is basically call guideline, and we will just have a little checklist item which is called yes and no, and we'll say lead reached. If I hit save here now, I can now fill this out when working on the lead. So I can say yes. Obviously these checklists can be way more complex, but as I said, we'll do a separate video on them. They are super useful and I advise everyone to use them because we can also use them from the Reonic app, which has not been mentioned, but you can download this in your iOS or App Store and can open up the request or later on offer an installation and fill out these checklists accordingly. Fantastic. So you see the next point here in the list is already offer. So let's say we have pre-qualified this lead and we want to convert this into an offer. What we do is we click on here and we select the funnel in the offer Kanban board that we want to place the lead in, which is usually new. So we can move it here. And if we go to offer, we can see that it has been moved to new. So yeah, super cool. We can also see the little PV tag that we've just given it before. And yeah, in the next video, we'll have a look at the offer itself and go through the according steps here. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.